Spider-Man Hostile Takeover. Chapter 15. Mr. Fisk always had his reasons. Maya knew that, but this time, she wasn't certain he was right. Moreover, she was pretty sure he was wrong. "He was in this building last night," she said. "To steal or to spy on us." The security detail had been useless. Fearful of the consequences, they had told her to go directly to the boss. Mr. Fisk nodded, looking thoughtful. At least he gave her concerns due consideration. "There is no harm that he can do us here," he said, remarkably calm. "And there is nothing of consequence for him to find that is not securely stored inside a safe." "He might have overheard our conversation." "And what if he did?" "We said nothing specific. There was nothing he can use against us." "It's a mistake not to take him more seriously," she insisted. "I take him very seriously," he told her. His eyes were narrowed, and his voice dropped a register. "That's why I deployed Bingham." She couldn't let him know she had gone to speak to Bingham. Maya had little experience lying to Mr. Fisk. In those few transgressions she had committed, when she was much younger, had left her feeling small and ungrateful. She owed everything to this man, but she still believed he was wrong. "I've crossed swords with these costume vigilantes before," Fisk said. "They all thrive on attention, on feeling as though they are the center of something important. If you push back, that only feeds the delusion." "Spider-Man is already a problem." "He is a nuisance," Fisk said with a wave of his hand. "But if I were to attack him, then it would quickly escalate, perhaps beyond what we want." "You may be underestimating how much he—" The slab of Mr. Fisk's palm came down on the desk. Papers, pen, and photographs flew like debris in the wake of a bomb blast. "Enough!" he said. "You are very clever, Maya, but you still have much to learn. Unless Spider-Man directly assaults us in some way we cannot ignore, we shall not speak of him until after we have completed the project." He pinned her with his gaze. "Is that understood?" "Yes," she said, rising to her feet. "Absolutely." She ignored the field of debris that surrounded the desk. Once when she was younger, she had scrambled to pick things up, but that only made him angrier. He didn't like attention called to his temper. Without another word between them, she left the office. On the way out, she spoke to Mr. Cisneros, the first shift secretary. "There was an accident in Mr. Fisk's office." He nodded, springing from his chair. "I'll tend to it right away." Just then, a smartly dressed young woman entered the foyer. "Hi," she said. "I'm Mary Jane Watson. I have an appointment with Mr. Fisk?" "Yes, of course," Mr. Cisneros replied. He looked conflicted. "I'll take care of this," Maya told him. The longer Fisk sat with his items on the floor, the more he would brood. She turned to Miss Watson. "I'm Maya Lopez, Mr. Fisk's special assistant. Mr. Fisk will be with you shortly," she gestured. "Please, have a seat. Can I offer you some coffee or water?" "No, thank you," the woman said as she sat. "May I ask what this is regarding?" "I'm with the Daily Bugle," she said, "working on a series about the low-income people who stand to benefit from mixed-unit apartment projects. And since Mr. Fisk is part of that movement—" She allowed herself to trail off, most likely thinking it was charming. "Mr. Fisk is the movement," Maya corrected, moving a step closer. "Others may be trying to ride on his coattail, but they offer fewer units of less quality. Trying to benefit from the good press without making a real contribution to the city. The work of the Fisk Foundation is changing the city for the better. I hope you will include that in your story." "If it turns out to be true, I certainly will." Maya turned to leave. Then she stopped and turned back to face the reporter. "In the past, reporters have come claiming to be working on one kind of story, but they were working on something else. Something designed to twist Mr. Fisk's crook so it appeared to be something dark and illegal. She paused, then added, "You wouldn't be doing that, would you, Miss Watson?" "I've just started at the Bugle," she said, "as a features writer. It wouldn't be wise to do anything other than what I'm told." "No, it wouldn't," Maya agreed. "Reporters who do that sort of thing find their careers taking unfortunate turns." Then she smiled brightly. "Good luck, Miss Watson." Maya left the office, a frown coming to her face. For some reason, the reporter hadn't seemed troubled by the implied threat. Perhaps she wasn't smart enough to understand it. Or she was more dangerous than she appeared. That gave her a thought. Maya had wanted to meet at a coffee shop, the way normal people did when conducting business outside of the office. But no, he insisted on meeting at a hot dog vendor's cart 2 blocks from Fisk Tower. She sent a text. "Do you think it's too dangerous to meet indoors?" He'd responded immediately. "Hot dogs! They have the best damn hot dogs in the city! If I'm going to be near there, I want one!" She arrived a few minutes early, but he was already sitting on the bench near the metal cart. He was about halfway through one hot dog and had another resting on his briefcase. "Get a dog," he told her. "You won't regret it. Don't forget the relish. Even if you think you don't like relish, get it. This guy's relish is incredible. He makes it himself." She sat down next to him. "I'm not here for hot dogs." "You don't have to be here for a hot dog to enjoy a hot dog," he told her. "Life is full of misery and hardship, so grab your pleasures where you can." Maya didn't like eating while on the street. It distracted her, and city streets were chaotic places. It was best not to be distracted. Plus, she wasn't about to eat processed meat and buns made of refined flour. She trained hard and was fanatical about what she consumed. No hot dogs for her. A few people who passed by glanced in her direction. The man she was meeting wasn't exactly a celebrity, but New York was a media-driven town. It didn't help that his flat top, brown hair, with its graying wings, his stubby mustache, and massive eyebrows all gave him a distinctive look. "Let me be clear that I appreciate what you're offering," J. Jonah Jameson's began. "The Beagle didn't have the guts to let me continue telling the truth. That's why I got the boot. I want to be able to tell the people what's really going on in the city, especially when it comes to that menace, Spider-Man." "And we want to help you," she said. "I'm sure you do, but I'm a little suspicious about your anonymous benefactor's motives." "I represent an organization in which people at the highest levels appreciate your work," she said. "It's that simple." Even simpler, Maya wanted to make Spider-Man's life miserable. If she couldn't do it physically, she would do it psychologically. She would wear him down. So that when it came to direct confrontation, and she had no doubt that it would be that much weaker. "It's really not," Jameson said. "Simple, that is. I didn't get to run a paper like the Bugle by being an idiot. I came up the hard way, as a reporter, so I know your people at the highest level, which translates to a bunch of greedy fat cats, aren't going to throw money at me unless they think there's something in it for them." Maya did her best not to appear concerned. "The people I represent want to do business in a city that isn't plagued by that sort of chaos you've spent your career condemning." "That's it, huh?" He looked dubious and took another big bite, chewing theatrically. It made it difficult for her to tell what he was saying. He was playing the gruff newsman. Maya knew he was posturing, but people postured all the time. She was doing it herself. "Mr. Jameson, we believe the city is poor since your voice has been silenced. And we are prepared to give you an even bigger megaphone than the one you had with the Bugle. A radio broadcast of the sort we envision put you everywhere in the city. In homes, in stores, in taxicabs, in offices. Would you refuse such an offer because you don't like the idea of anonymous backers?" "Maybe," he told her. Understand up front that no one tells me what to say or what to do. You get me. You get Peter Jamison. Straight. No water, no ice. If anyone starts whispering in my ear that I need to say this or not say that, I walk away. If that's not in my contract, then the contract doesn't get signed. I will pass that along to the lawyers and get you the contracts by the morning. Jameson finished his hot dog and wiped his hands on a paper napkin. Then he reached out to shake Maya's hand. Then it looks like we've got a deal, he replied. When can I start making Spider-Man's life miserable? As soon as possible, Maya said, accepting the handshake. Start to organize a staff and plan out your schedule. With that, she stood up and walked away, pulling a little bottle of hand sanitizer out of her purse. As she walked back to the office, she couldn't help but feel pleased with herself. Mr. Fisk would be furious if he had found out, but only because he told her to stay away from all things Spider-Man. In his anger, he might not see how good this plan really is. No one was better than J. Jonah Jameson at whipping up the public to turn against Spider-Man. She'd been encouraged to explore her own projects, and it wasn't hard to find a slot for Jameson on one of the most high-profile talk radio stations. All they had to do was wind him up and let him go. Jameson's hot air would take care of the rest.